My name is Darren Hupke, and this is Pixels and Polygons, part of the Soundstone Network. Welcome to a new episode of Pixels and Polygons. I am Darren Hupke, the host of the show. If you are a returning listener, thank you so much for coming back and checking out another episode. Hopefully this is another entertaining one for you, and I appreciate you for coming back week after week. If you are new, it's a simple pitch. I sit down with a guest each week and I ask them a video game related prompt or question, and we talk about it. It's 20 to 40 minutes or so each episode. This can stem from topics like what's a underappreciated or below average game you love that doesn't get enough attention, or what is your history with video games? When did you start playing and when did you fall in love with them? Or why do you play the games that you play? It could be a lot of different things. The conversations can go in a lot of different directions, but the point is just to have a great and thoughtful conversation that maybe sparks your own ideas or your own interests as a listener to think about your own responses and hopefully just have some fun along the way. If you like what you hear and you want to support the show, I've got a few different ways you can do that. I have links in the show notes below to everything that I do, and I'll highlight one of those in particular. Beat 'em Up Volume 1 is a love letter to the genre. Volume 1 of the series breaks down the Final Fight franchise and covers the entire series. So you get histories and development details, artwork, screenshots, magazine scans, a lot of artifacts from the era covering every game in the franchise, from the 1989 arcade original all the way up to 2006 and the release of Final Fight Streetwise. There's also chapters that cover where this series is now, its appearances in other properties like Street Fighter, comics, TV shows, cartoons, all those types of things. So if you're a fan of beat 'em ups, if you're a fan of Final Fight, this book has all the history and all the details I hope you will enjoy and love and find something new about one of my favorite franchises of all time. You can buy it physically over on pixelsandpolygons.net, but you can also buy digital copies over on my Patreon shop. Links to all of these will be in the show notes below, but check it out. Beat 'em Up, Volume 1. With that out of the way, we can start the episode right after an ad from one of our Soundstone Network partners.
Oh, hi. I didn't see you there. I'm Nick McConnell, and you caught me reading the instruction booklet for Street Fighter II in preparation for my weekly stream Instruction Derby, where I take a look at the creative, fun, and sometimes bizarre lost art of video game manuals. Did you know that, according to the manual for Street Fighter II on the Super Nintendo, Ryu was born in 1964, making him 62 years young, canonically? Happy birthday, Ryu. You're looking great. Did you also know that, per the manual for Laser Invasion on the Nintendo, the UN enters a conclave in order to select a new commando? Or did you know that the dancing enemies in Super Castlevania are named Paula Ab Ghul and Fred Askare? These important facts and many more are discovered every Wednesday at noon Pacific on Instruction Derby over at internet website twitch.tv/Nick McConnell. Part of the Soundstone Network.
All right, welcome everyone to a new episode of Pixels and Polygons, a conversational podcast about video games. I am Darren Hupke, and I'm here with a new guest, more new guests for the year, which is always awesome. But I've got Nick, aka PandaMonium. You may be familiar with the name, but thank you so much, Nick, for jumping onto the show.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you so much for having me, Darren. It truly means a lot. So yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, we were just talking offline about it, but it was the Fun Factor episode I got to hear you on as well. I've been watching your YouTube content. As I mentioned, Andrew Elmore, friend of the show, had turned me on to that stuff. So when I heard you on a podcast, I'm like, oh, okay, he does podcasts. I will reach out then. There's no harm in just seeing if you'd be down. So thanks for just jumping on and being down to do it. So thank you.
Yeah, for sure. And I think I just realized this. The audio was going through my speakers, my external speakers, without me realizing it. So I now have it set to my headphones. So it should be. I should sound slightly better now.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah.
than I did 30 seconds ago.
Still good. Still good. We'll fix it in post.
Great. Okay. Great. Awesome.
I typically actually don't. It's usually it's kind of more of a set and recorded and real easy and all that stuff. So this may live in the final file. Goo is my editor.
I can live with that.
We'll see. We'll see if he changes it up. If you surprise us, Goo, thanks. If not, this is a conversation, and this is what happens when two people talk over the internet with technology. But if you'd like to maybe give us an intro, give us a rundown on who you are, Nick, and like feel free to like unplug and share like your YouTube channel and all the stuff you've got going on. But for those of the listeners who may not know who you are, give us that little intro.
Yeah. So in a nutshell, I have a Sega Saturn based YouTube channel. The main series is reviewing every US Sega Saturn game in release date order. So in chronological order from the first game to eventually maybe someday the last game released in North America. Right now I'm working on a review of Solar Eclipse. I'm pretty sure it's number 38 on my list. I like to go back and interview developers who worked on these games. And anyone else who worked on them, voice actors and other folks who may have been related to the game's story in some way. Not every episode has an interview in it, but many of them now do. And I just have a really good time digging up weird stories about all these games, good and bad games. It's just a lot of fun to do. I've had a lot of fun with this series.
Yeah, you've been doing it, like, obviously you do it on the side of living your normal full life and everything, but like a lot goes into the production of these videos. They're not just like little 3-minute quick talking head reviews or coverage of the game. They're very in-depth and like documentary style and everything. What got you interested in doing that long form, like deep dive historical type of content there? Like what was the curiosity that pushed you over the edge to do these videos?
It just kind of, escalated, I guess. Scope creep, if you want to call it that. Like, they originally started as little 5-minute videos, 5 to 10 minute long videos. The original goal was to get past Wiki. So, to not only cite what's already on Wiki or what's easily researchable just on Google or whatever. I always wanted to go slightly deeper. So from the beginning, I'd go back to old magazines and look at the articles and the reviews of the time and try to dig up those niche stories about every game I was looking at. And it was the Gen War episode when I first did a developer interview. And that worked out so well and told me much more about the game's interesting story than I ever would have otherwise found out. It just sort of snowballed from there, wanting to, get interviews with developers more often and try to really dig up these crazy stories about these really niche games. Most of them are not super well known. There's a few Sega Saturn games that are, and I've been able to get to a few of them, thankfully. But the really rewarding stuff has been finding out really weird stories about like the sleeper hits or the bad games, right? It's been a lot of fun to uncover a lot of that.
Yeah, that's really cool. I'll have the links in the show notes below if you do want to check out and subscribe to the YouTube channel. It's well worth your time. They're always well put together and well worth it, well edited, and really good and really informing, but also like entertaining. Definitely check them out. It won't hurt you. It's free, so you can't complain. So everyone go check them out. It's free. But you wanted to jump onto the show, and I sent you my list of questions. We are going to jump into one of these for you. But before we do that, I want to throw an icebreaker your way to get your brain working. How do you feel about that?
All right. It feels great. Let's go.
I like this one. It's not mean, but what is one of your least favorite games and one of your favorite gaming franchises? So you don't have to like dunk on the game necessarily, but like is there a franchise or series you love, and what would you say is the least favorite one in that series?
So like this is someone saying like Zelda 2 if they're a Zelda fan kind of thing, like that sort of take. Yeah. Okay. Let me think about that one.
Yeah, I mean, you absolutely could
for a second.
Yeah, you could dunk on a game if you really wanted to. I mean, you just don't want to have to put you on the spot to feel like you have to be negative. But yeah,
exactly.
I've heard the multiple answers of this, and I've heard a Zelda.
Yes,
I've heard a Zelda response. Yeah, but the Zelda 2 was not the choice actually that they selected, which is curious.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, hang on. But before I answer, what was their choice? I just want to know now. Dying to find that out.
I believe it was the Spirit Tracks, the DS one for it. It was Gooey from the Flashback 64 podcast, who I believe selected that. Hopefully, I'm not misrepresenting Goo. I'm like 95% sure that's what he shared. But
nice. Okay. All right. I guess. Well, let's see here. There's definitely a few potential answers here. Okay, so I really dig the Crash Bandicoot games. They're all pretty good. My least favorite one in the franchise has got to be there's this DS game called Crash Boom Bang. It's a nonsense name.
Oh yeah.
It is like probably one of the worst games I've ever played. I don't know if you've played Crash Bash on PS1, which was their attempt at. They tried to do a Mario Party, but it was a little different. It was more minigame focused. There wasn't a board game gimmick. They tried to like evolve that, and it absolutely bombed. Like this is not like a hot take. Like most Crash fans would probably pick this game as like their least favorite in the franchise. Like complete. Like there's nothing worse to compare it to, if that makes sense. It is garbage.
This was way before. This is before 3DS, right? This is just a DS title.
Yes.
Yeah.
This was OG DS. Yeah, pre 3DS. Like it kind of looks good on the surface. It's got like a neat low poly look to it, but good lord, the game was just awful. Yeah,
that's fun.
That would be my answer to that.
Yeah. All right. I don't think I've ever played that one. I mean, I remember seeing the cover of it numerous times. I remember it coming out and everything, but I never was curious enough to pick it up and try it out. I assumed it was, another like mini game collection type thing, but Crash Bash was not, what I wanted it to be. So Crash Boom Bang was not definitely going to live up to what my expectations would have been anyway.
Yeah. If it's something you ever find for free or something, like it's worth playing just for the spectacle of how terrible it is and how awful it turned out. But yeah, I would not pay more than $1 for it if you ever find it in the wild.
Some very quick podcast listeners love it when this happens, but on the spot research happening here. The developer was Dimps, which is a Japanese developer, but they were probably most famously known for collaborating with Capcom and being the developer behind the Street Fighter IV original release. So,
see, that's crazy because Street Fighter IV was awesome.
from Crash Boom Bang, just a few years later, they were co-working with Capcom and helping them develop Street Fighter IV.
Oh, geez, they must have had some development timeline hell then when they made Boom Bang, because like Street Fighter IV was competent. That was actually really good.
Yeah, it's an interesting history. Yeah, Dimps has a large history with a lot of licensed games and a lot of collaborations there. But okay. Well, that's the icebreaker. That's out of the way.
All right, great.
Now we're into the main event of it. The one question we're going to answer today, it's that origin story type question here. But when did you start playing video games? What are your earliest memories? What is your journey with the medium? But yeah, I remember hearing, if you haven't listened to it already, I know I mentioned already the Fun Factor episode y'all participated in over there. It was a great episode focused on the Sega Saturn and its launch and just talking about the history. It was interesting to hear some of your perspective then, but I'd love to maybe to dive deeper into that here. When did you start playing video games there, Nick?
Yeah, so strangely, like my first video games were not Sega at all. Certainly not Sega Saturn games. I've been told by my dad that it was the Super Nintendo and that I played a lot of Street Fighter, which I believe because I still really like Street Fighter. So complete, that definitely tracks. I first remembered playing the PlayStation 1. That's like, if I were to go back into my brain, reliable memory, that's the first like memory of video games. specifically the first Spyro the Dragon. So this would have been right when it came out, which I think was 1998. Well, as you did earlier, some on the spot research here. Let me just go ahead and fact check myself there.
Yeah, Spyro was probably 98.
1998. Yeah, that's right. That's like the first game I remember playing, and I actually do still play it to this day. I think I've beaten it, and this is not an exaggeration. I'm pretty sure I've beaten it like hundreds of times over the years since then. I did like casual speedrunning of it for a while, but that, goes beyond what got me started in video games, right? So, but yeah, that was the first one I remember playing. I was, the usual Crash Spyro kid. I was one of those kids in like the late 90s, early 2000s. Family eventually got a PS2. And at around the early 2000s was when I got really interested in, you remember those plug and play, like a Namco plug and play? It would have 6 Namco arcade games on it, and just like it was like a little joystick you just plugged into the AV input of your television. You remember those?
Yes.
Yeah. So like I like really fucked with those. Like we had a bunch of those throughout like the family, and I was like super into them. I thought those were just great, right? Like, wow, these old games are so nifty, and eventually I got into emulating retro games on the Windows XP computer at my parents' house where I grew up, and probably put a bunch of viruses on there. But point is, I got the emulators up and running. A bunch of Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis games. Figured out how to get the PS1 emulator running, and that was really what got me into like older 16-bit, older 8-bit games. And I think that's about when I really got into like retro gaming. That was pretty much when that like started. And it really, like, the older stuff got me into appreciating like the core gameplay mechanics of games. How it feels to play something, how they're designed and stuff. Got me thinking about that a lot more. And I, through emulating, through finding ROMs on, doperoms.com was my primary source, right? That was usually where I wound up finding these. That was kind of how I discovered like other systems. So, I saw that the Dreamcast was a thing and looked into that for a little while, and eventually saw that the Sega Saturn was a thing and then looked into that. At that point, Saturn emulation was not great. SSF was, I think, the best emulator for it at the time. And even then, it was pretty good. It was like 85 or so % compatibility. Like it worked pretty good. There's only a handful of like hit games that just wouldn't run on it. And I used that to like blow through a bunch of the Saturn library. Especially a game called Darius Gaiden. A lot of the games on the Saturn I felt at the time and still feel today are like the best of what makes, I guess, what we call retro games really cool. Mm-hmm. It is very good at two-dimensional games, and it's very good at combining early 3D with 2D. There's like a visual look to a lot of the games on Saturn that are unmatched because of how wacky the architecture is, and how everything's supposed to get slapped together on it. And I don't know, I just really like the way they looked. It is, in my opinion, the retro gamer's machine, outside of like, the Neo Geo and stuff. A lot of really cool games on that. It's got its own, like, the console has its own personality, right? Consoles had their own personalities back in like the 90s and 2000s. Mm-hmm. And wanting to get into the Saturn library more, I had to get past emulation. I eventually got a console and chip modded it. And that was like, from there in high school when I chip modded a Saturn, I just spent weekend after weekend burning through a bunch of CDs. I think I went through like a couple of those 100 packs of like burnable CDs. Did a bunch of Dreamcast games too on those weekends. So yeah, that really got me into Saturn, got me into Sega. The Saturn's still like my favorite console of all time. Anyway, there's a really bad timeline of how I got into all of that.
No, that's cool. I do love the hardware design of the Saturn. I did not have a Saturn. I had a PlayStation at that time in that era, and a cousin of mine had a Saturn. But being a former like Genesis kid, like Sega's consoles designs were always really cool. Like I just loved the physical like look of it and its like shape and, you know, like boxy, but still like, you know, designy kind of curves. I think the Dreamcast kind of really evolved that same type of like aesthetic, you know, for it, you know, but just obviously swapped colors out. But yeah, that Saturn was always a cool looking system, and the 6-button controllers. I always loved those like Saturn controllers, you know, for classic games. Like they just looked cool and felt cool, and you know, I'd play, you know, Knights or whatever at kiosks in stores and whatnot. But I feel like I was always given a bad image of the Saturn. My cousin who brought it over once to like kind of like play, and I was always like curious, like, hey, what am I missing here? What do I not have access to being this PlayStation kid? And you know, he brought it over and he had like Independence Day and something else, and it was just like, all right, cool. So I'm not missing anything. I actually don't want to play this longer than 10 minutes. I'm good. I'll go back to Tekken 2 and like just have that time. But yeah, that original PlayStation you talked about having, was that purchased? Did your parents buy that for you, or did they have an interest in gaming, or was it just like, you know, like what was the reason that ended up in the household?
It was like the family's PlayStation. Dad was more the gamer than mom, for sure, by a clean mile. So he and I were the ones who played it primarily. And, you know, we would play a lot of Gran Turismo together. I remember that. He at one point got 2 wheel and pedal set up so we could 2-player wheel and pedal Gran Turismo 2 on like kitchen chairs.
That's cool.
Dragged into the living room. That was great. So we did that a lot. A lot of Tekken, and Need for Speed 4 was a pretty big hit in the house. He got all the Tony Hawk games, and we got all the Crash Bandicoot games and such. But I think like he and I playing together, Gran Turismo probably got the most like playtime.
Gotcha.
Especially when he got the wheel setups. The wheel setups were sick. So, and there was like one evening spent where I watched him play through the entirety of it was like it was the FMV Star Wars game. I think it was Rebel Assault 2. I don't know if you've ever played that. I went back and played it not too long ago, and it's like it's enjoyable. Like it's a good game to play, but it's not like mechanically a good game, if you know what I'm saying. So yeah.
Those are the best kind of games.
Yeah, it was like they are. Yeah, they really are. You just respect it for what it is, even if it's, you know, not Metroid Prime.
Yeah.
But
well, then you going like backwards, you had an interesting route there to like go back in time and play through some of those like, you know, classic games. And like you said, you like, you know, learning the mechanics and learning like the origins and history of that. Did that like then like infer like how you played games going forward? Like, do you like nowadays, like modern games, like do you still enjoy like new games that are coming out? Are you more involved with like indie games and like PC style like releases, or like where has that path taken you to like the modern sense?
Oh, I kind of like all of it. Like the modern games, I mean, I probably don't play modern games as much as like the average bear, but I still play them in some indie games and a lot of retro games. My wife is the modern gamer, the modern game player, if you want to put it that way. And through her, I wind up playing modern games. So what happens is when like a new game comes out that we're both really interested in, we'll both play it at the same time. We did this a lot with Pokemon games over the years. So anytime a new Pokemon gen comes out, you know, say back in the 3DS era, we both had our own 3DS. He'd get Pokemon X, I get Pokemon Y, and then we both play it at the same time, right? And like today, like Crimson Desert's been out for a bit, and shortly after it came out, she got it on an Xbox, I got it on PC, and her and I have been playing through it at the same time in tandem, and you know, we talk about it and stuff like that. So that's kind of like how I do a lot of my modern games, modern game enjoying today, along with other modern games that I wind up playing outside of that. I get into a lot of the indie games mainly through Steam. That's been a really great resource for those. And and just still play a shit ton of retro stuff on various modded consoles that I've got in the apartment. So, yep.
And then, like, so going back and playing something like the Saturn now, do you still use the original hardware, or do you have?
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's
now emulations.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, yeah. No, I definitely use the OG hardware just because I have it. But I will say emulation for the Saturn's improved dramatically. Like, it's pretty much good now. It's solved. BizHawk and Mednafen are the two really good ones for Windows.
Gotcha.
So it's for sure like reliable now. But since I've got the original hardware, I mean that is king. If I'm able to use it, I'm going to, because that's completely accurate. No issues at all. It just works.
That's good. And then like you're capturing all your video and things like that just on your own original hardware?
Yep. Yeah, just on OG hardware. I use ODEs because Saturn games are stupid expensive.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll burn the disc if it doesn't work right on a certain ODE or whatever. But yeah, it's still captured and running on actual hardware.
Yeah, well, that's cool. Well, the future then for you. I mean, obviously, you're still playing a lot of retro games and doing that. Your YouTube channel, obviously, at the pace that you're at, we may be decades out of seeing the end. How do you see that progressing? I mean, is your goal to actually get through all of them, or is it more of the journey that you're going to allow yourself to enjoy it at whatever pace that it is and be absolutely content and happy with that? How is that living out for you right now, going back and playing the Saturn games?
It's definitely the latter of those two you just threw down. I intend to at some point get through all 246 North American games, but it might be a while. The goal is to just have this hobby and have it be a hobby that I'll always have. And since the list of games is stupid long, then yeah, I'll probably always have this hobby. So hopefully I'll get to Magic Knight Rayearth at some point. I'd certainly like to. The big concern I have is the lifespan of the potential interviewees that I have going forward.
Oh boy,
yeah, that's been a concern of mine for a while, and I don't know how to really solve that other than just I don't know, just maybe interview a bunch of them at once and just stockpile them. I don't know what the correct answer for that is, but yeah, that's certainly something I got to think about, because a lot of old video game history stories unfortunately go away with people once they are no longer with us. And I think, thankfully nowadays, I think there's a greater interest in video game history. So there's a lot of people, not just me, who are interviewing old, video game developers, people who were around in the 90s and in the 2000s and the 80s, etc. So a lot of their stories are getting archived, even for the lesser celebrated games, which is really cool to see. But yeah, I don't know. It's just it's one of those things I think and worry. I'll be able to make videos about these games and there'll be a lot of source material about them, but 50 years from now, I'm not going to be able to talk to these guys. So I better get on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the one thing that stresses me out about it. But other than that, it's more of a side hobby. It's a nice hobby to have.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you enjoy what you do. The quality shows through in the work that you're doing. You wouldn't be phoning this in if you weren't actually interested in it. And those are the types of things I personally gravitate towards. I'm involved in so many niche garbage things myself, but it's out of pure love and fandom and enjoyment of what that is. And it's its own version of preservation and everything. So your videos, some people may never ever physically be able to handle a Saturn controller and see the hardware, but to know those details from sources, from the developers, hear the histories of it, see that footage of it, and just understand the impacts that has, that could help create and motivate and push future developers and future creators to understand what came before them as well. And it's rad. I just appreciate what you do. It's entertaining and fun. So that's it though. We kind of did the thing. This is the podcast.
All right.
You answer the question, we talk, and we wrap, and we're done. So thank you so much again, Nick, for doing this. Obviously to the peek behind the curtain, we're going to record another episode right after this, but for all intents and purposes, this is the end of the first episode with you. Anything you'd like to plug or promote or share before we wrap recording and move on?
Yeah, the most recent video I made is digging for ISICs, which is stupidly long. It is nearly 8 hours long. That extensively goes over the history of Digital Pictures, the company that made FMV games like Night Trap and Sewer Shark. And then there's, within this video, 3 long-form reviews / documentaries of Double Switch for the Sega Saturn, and 2 canceled Sega Saturn games, including Maximum Surge, which to this day has never been leaked or released, but they, gave me a copy to play and record for the video, which was great.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's all jam packed and digging for i6, which is the latest, full video on my YouTube channel right now.
Yeah, I actually need to watch it. I don't know why I think I had it pop up as new and I was like, here we go, let's start this soon. And then I've now, my YouTube algorithm has crushed it down for me. So this is a great reminder, because the last one, what your previous video was the Toga King, the high velocity video. Yep. Would that have been it? Yeah. And that's, almost 2 hours of just really good video. So if you're telling me I got 8 hours of this ahead of me, let's go. Lock it in. Go out and check it out and watch it. I'll put the links in the show notes below, everybody. So please do check out Nick and check out his content and give it a thumbs up and whatever reviews you can and share and promote it and do all the socials thing. But Nick, thank you so much for joining me on the episode. I appreciate having your time, and everybody else listening. Catch him on a future episode in a few weeks from now and find new episodes every Friday. Thanks a lot. Have a great rest of your day. Bye.
Listen to Flashback 64, the chronological Nintendo 64 podcast. Hosts Gooey, McKenna, and friends flashback to the 90s and early 2000s with a look at the Nintendo 64's catalog and its contemporary cultural and historical context. Starting with the console's launch titles and proceeding in release order, we discuss classics like GoldenEye, Super Mario 64, and Star Fox 64, as well as some not-so-beloved games, lesser-known titles, and everything in between. Along with game-specific deep dives, we also cover other bits of pop culture from the time, like films, music, and more. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.